The backyard was a kaleidoscope of laughter and clinking glasses, string lights swaying gently in the summer breeze. Then, like a storm cloud bursting, HOA Karen and her sister Lynn crashed through the gate, their voices slicing through the music like a knife through butter. HOA, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, HOA waddled in first, her floral dress straining at the seams, her face a mask of smug superiority. Lynn, leaner but no less venomous, trailed behind, clutching a bottle of cheap Merlot like a weapon. The part-of-me party, meticulously planned for weeks, froze. Guests turned, drinks paused mid-sip, as HOA's voice boomed. "Where was my invite, huh? You think you're too good for us?" I stood by the dessert table, a tray of cupcakes in hand, feeling the air thicken with tension. This wasn't just a social slight. This was HOA's latest crusade. She'd been terrorizing the neighborhood for years, filing complaints about unmowed lawns, unauthorized mailbox colors, even kids' lemonade stands. Last month, she'd fined me $200 for a non-compliant birdhouse. A birdhouse. Now here she was, uninvited, turning my birthday celebration into her personal battlefield. "You can't just show up, HOA," I said, setting the cupcakes down, my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. "This is a private event." "Private?" HOA scoffed, her chins wobbling as she stepped closer, her perfume a nauseating cloud of lavender and entitlement. "Nothing's private when you're breaking HOA rules. That fire pit's too close to the fence violation. And this noise? I could have you shut down." Lynn nodded, smirking, as she uncorked the Merlot with a dramatic pop. The guests murmured, some edging away, others glaring. My best friend, Maya, a no-nonsense nurse with a sharp tongue, stepped forward. "HOA, you weren't invited because you're a bully. Take your wine and go." HOA's eyes narrowed to slits. "You don't talk to me like that, little girl." Then, in a move so brazen it sucked the air from the yard, she tilted the Merlot bottle and splashed it across Maya's white sundress. Red wine dripped like blood, staining the fabric, the tablecloth, the ground. Gasps erupted. My neighbor Tom, a quiet accountant who rarely spoke, dropped his beer, his jaw slack. "You're gonna regret that," Maya said, her voice low, dangerous. She didn't flinch, even as wine soaked her dress. Lynn laughed, a shrill, grating sound, and tossed her own glass of wine at me. It missed, splattering the cupcakes, turning buttercream roses into a crimson mess. I was done. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "Now." HOA laughed, a cruel, guttural sound. "Or what? You'll call the cops? I own this neighborhood." She jabbed a finger at me, her gold rings glinting. "You're nobody. Just a wannabe throwing a tacky party." That's when Tom, of all people, stepped up. Shy, unassuming Tom, who'd endured HOA's fines for his unsightly garden gnomes. "Enough," he said, his voice quiet but firm. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. "I'm calling the police." HOA's face twisted, her confidence cracking. "You wouldn't dare." But he did. And the party, now a battlefield, held its breath as the sisters doubled down. Lynn grabbed a plate of sliders and hurled it at the ground, screaming, "You're all trash." HOA, not to be outdone, snatched a tray of drinks from a nearby table and dumped it over the fire pit, sending a hiss of steam into the air. The crowd erupted in shouts, some guests filming, others yelling for them to stop. I felt a strange calm settle over me. This was HOA's undoing, and she didn't even see it coming. For years, she'd wielded her HOA power like a scepter, fining people for petty infractions, belittling anyone who dared challenge her. But tonight, she'd crossed a line, and the neighborhood was watching. The police arrived faster than I expected, their cruiser lights flashing against the darkening sky. Two officers, one a grizzled veteran named Officer Daniels, stepped into the yard. HOA, undeterred, marched toward them, her voice dripping with indignation. "Arrest them. They're holding an illegal gathering." Daniels raised an eyebrow, taking in the scene, the shattered plates, the wine-soaked tablecloth, the furious guests. "Ma'am," he said, his tone dry. You're the one throwing bottles and breaking things. That's vandalism. And trespassing, since you weren't invited. Lynn tried to interject, her voice shrill. We have rights. We're HOA board members. Not anymore, came a voice from the crowd. It was Mrs. Patel, the retired librarian who'd been quietly documenting HOA abuses for months. She held up her phone, showing a petition signed by over half the neighborhood, demanding the sisters' removal from the HOA board. We've had enough, she said. This ends tonight. The officers exchanged a look. Daniels motioned to HOA and Lynn. Turn around, hands behind your backs. HOA's face went pale, her bravado crumbling. You can't do this. I'm HOA Karen. I run this place. Not anymore, Maya said, wiping wine from her dress, a triumphant glint in her eye. As the officers cuffed the sisters, the crowd erupted in cheers. HOA's shouts of protest faded as they were led to the cruiser, her floral dress catching on the gate as she stumbled. Lynn, still clutching the empty Merlot bottle, muttered curses until the car door slammed shut. The party didn't resume right away. We cleaned up the mess: broken glass, ruined food, wine-soaked linens. But there was a lightness in the air, a shared relief. HOA and Lynn had ruled through fear, but tonight, they'd been exposed. The neighborhood wasn't theirs anymore. Later, as we sat around the fire pit, now relit, Mrs. Patel shared her plan. The petition was just the start. She'd already contacted the HOA's legal counsel, and with the police report and dozens of witnesses, the sisters' reign was over. Tom, emboldened by his stand, volunteered to join the new board. Maya, still in her stained dress, raised a glass of water-sworn sworn-off wine for the night and proposed a toast. To freedom from Karens, she said, and we all laughed, the sound carrying into the night. I looked around at my neighbors, their faces lit by the fire's glow. We'd been strangers, cowed by HOA's tyranny, but tonight, we were a community. The wine stains would fade, the fines would be overturned, but this moment, this victory would stay with us. As the cruiser's taillights vanished down the street, I felt a weight lift. HOA Karen and her sister had come to ruin my night, but they'd only ruined themselves. The neighborhood was ours again, and we'd fight to keep it that way. The end.